Calexit. Could California, a $4 trillion economic giant, truly secede from the US? A cultural powerhouse and political outlier, the Golden State often clashes with Washington, fueling talk of independence. But could it govern itself, secure trade deals, and maintain stability on its own? Or is this just a high-speed fantasy destined to crash? Buckle up as we break down the 7 key factors that could determine if California shifts into overdrive or stalls out. California's economic horsepower, enough to go the distance. California's $4 trillion economy ranks as the 5th largest in the world, outpacing the UK. Home to tech giants like Apple, Tesla, and Google, plus Hollywood and the booming agricultural sector, it wields massive economic influence. But could it thrive independently? Secession means losing federal funding for infrastructure, disaster relief, and defense, forcing the state to reshape its tax system. Would middle and lower income Californians bear the cost? Trade is another challenge. The US is California's biggest partner. Would Washington cooperate or impose barriers and tariffs? Negotiating new global agreements would be critical, but failure could trigger economic instability. Despite its financial strength, going solo isn't simple. Would independence boost California's global standing, or would it struggle to maintain its dominance without federal support? The stakes couldn't be higher. The political divide, California and Washington at a crossroads. California and the federal government have been at odds for decades, clashing on immigration laws, climate policies, and economic regulations. The state often acts as if it's running its own playbook, ignoring federal mandates and even suing Washington over policy disputes. Recent national elections have highlighted the widening gap between California's progressive stance and the rest of the country. Many Californians feel politically alienated, fueling the argument that it should chart its own course rather than remain tied to a system that doesn't align with its values. But political separation isn't just about waving goodbye to Washington. It would require massive legal restructuring, a new government framework, and a solution to potential resistance from other states. Would California's push for sovereignty turn into a drawn-out legal battle? Or would the state successfully carve its own lane in global politics? Immigration policies. Will California open its own gates? Few topics are as heated as immigration, and California has long been at odds with federal enforcement. The state has some of the most immigrant-friendly laws in the US, with major cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego actively defying federal immigration policies. If California breaks away, it will need new immigration laws and a border control system. Would it maintain its open-door policies or tighten regulations to secure international trade and diplomacy? And how would it handle migrant labor, which is essential to its agriculture and tech industries? The challenge doesn't stop there. California shares a massive border with Mexico, meaning it would need to renegotiate border agreements, customs policies, and worker programs. Would independence give California the power to redefine immigration for the better? Or would it create diplomatic gridlock? Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now, let's shift gears and steer towards our next point. Climate policies. Can California go green without federal support? California has positioned itself as a leader in climate change policies, enforcing strict emission standards, pushing renewable energy initiatives, and investing in EV adoption. But how much of that momentum depends on federal backing? As an independent nation, California could double down on sustainability, creating an even more aggressive green economy. But there's a major roadblock: disaster relief funds. The state is hit hard by wildfires, droughts, and earthquakes, and federal aid plays a key role in recovery efforts. Without Washington's financial backing, would California struggle to maintain its ambitious environmental policies? Or could it use carbon taxation and green energy exports to fuel its independence? The legal roadblock. Can California overcome secession barriers? Even if Californians voted for independence, secession is a legal nightmare. The US Constitution doesn't allow states to leave, and the Supreme Court's Texas v. White, 1869, ruling confirmed that secession requires congressional approval, highly unlikely. The American Civil War set a precedent. The US fiercely opposed breakaways. California would face legal battles at every level, from federal lawsuits to constitutional roadblocks. Would it be willing to endure years of political conflict for independence? Beyond legality, California must address federal land ownership, military bases, and national treaties. Would Washington retaliate with economic restrictions, making independence unfeasible without global recognition or legal approval? Collects, it could stall in limbo rather than launching a new nation. Is California ready for a legal standoff that could take decades to resolve? The global shockwave, how Calexit could reshape the world if California succeeds. The economic aftershocks will be felt nationwide. The US would lose its biggest economic contributor, forcing budget shifts, tax hikes, and industry contractions. Supply chains could face disruptions, impacting food production, tech exports, and entertainment markets globally. China, Japan, and the EU would rush to secure trade deals with an independent California. But could the state negotiate effectively? Or would political uncertainty slow progress? Beyond economics, Collects, it could spark a domino effect. Would Texas or other states follow suit, fracturing the nation? The geopolitical stakes are high. Would California remain neutral, aligned with superpowers, or build its own defense strategy? US foreign policy would also shift. Would Washington see California as an ally or a competitor, with military bases and strategic assets at stake? Collects, it could reshape global power dynamics forever. A house divided, would all of California even want to leave? Despite strong secessionist sentiment in big cities, not all of California is on board. Rural regions in northern and central California tend to be more conservative, and they might oppose leaving the US altogether. This raises an unexpected twist. What if only parts of California want to secede? Could we see a scenario where Los Angeles and San Francisco push for independence while rural counties fight to remain American? The State of Jefferson movement in the North already advocates for breaking away from California itself. What happens if secession splinters the state even further? Beyond politics, infrastructure plays a role. Highways, water distribution, and energy grids are deeply intertwined with the rest of the US. Could an independent California manage its own resources effectively? Or would internal disputes make governance even harder without statewide unity? Could Calexit even get off the ground? Would California's push for sovereignty end up creating more division than independence? The final verdict, a new nation or just a political fantasy? The collective debate isn't just a political dream, it's a conversation with real-world stakes. From legal roadblocks to economic uncertainties, internal divisions to global implications, the question remains: would breaking away set California on a path to global success, or would it lead to chaos and instability? If California seceded today, would it become a powerhouse nation? Or would the reality of independence prove too much to handle? Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Calexit could ever happen? Would an independent California thrive? Or would it regret cutting ties with the US? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more on the biggest issues shaping our world. Hit that bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.